Right. I mean, Busy Bee was nothing but a hype man, basically party rapper.
And I think that kind of contributes to all that. We don't have such a wide range, and I think that that's one of the places where the labels are responsible. Like labels aren't cultivating these artists to be original. They
Right.
want them to carbon copy someone else, something that's already been done.
And to bring that up, it's not even just be yourself. Back in the day, if people came in and they were talented and they didn't really have a direction, the label would say, well, you can't be like Public Enemy, or
Right.
you can't be like whoever. We have to find out what you
Because the fans
are.
won't respect you. Because that was the thing, like, when I came up, listening, and falling in love with hip hop, was that every time you heard a new record, there was something distinct that made it different
Right.
from the record you just heard. Even on, because around here in our area, we don't really have a hip hop dominated radio, but even for when you were coming up, it was 91.5.
Right.
University of Evansville, Party Lights,
DJ Greg Nice, DJ Darkness, I can't remember
you know,
anymore.
Paul
but
Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan.
And I mean, that was like the thing where I got exposed to new artists back then, was that you listen.
Right.
I mean, I remember, you know, having the Max L cassettes, taping the shows.
And you tape the shows because it was like,
Yeah.
what, 7 to 9, or
Yeah.
like sometimes 7 to 12 or something like
And
that.
you know, I was always listening. Yeah, there were records that I wanted to hear that I'd already heard. But at the same time, I was checking it out to say, you know, is there anything new?
Right.
And when I'd hear something new, it was always constantly like, I got to know who that is. You know, I want to hear more.
But I mean, I think that's a problem with us, like the culture kind of fading away, is that now it's like, who cares if there's 30 people that sound like Lil Wayne? It's all selling.
It's all selling. And I mean, that's kind of the thing, is from the people who purchase the music, because I don't even want to say the people that love hip hop, because a lot of them don't love hip hop. They like the music. They like to listen to it at a party or in their car. They listen
Right.
to it because it has bass. A lot of them, when you try to pose that argument, or you try to say, hey, have you ever listened to Rakim? Have you ever listened to Cool G Rap? Have you ever listened to Melly Mel? They'll say, those guys were before my time. I don't really.
Right.
And if you even bring up a current artist to say, you know, people will say, like, someone told me that I love Wiz Khalifa. He's the new Snoop Dogg. Well, to me, that's disrespectful. He's not the new Snoop Dogg.
Right.
And I understand the persona may be the same. He's known for, you know, weed smoking rapper and everything. But if I was to say, what have you heard? And I'm drawing a blank now, as far as a newer artist that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of.
That's good, or that's...
Yeah, that's good. It's.
Well,
I mean,
you put me on
a Joey Badass.
Joey Badass.
Hey, have you checked out Joey Badass? He's only 17. I mean, like, this kid, and he'll say, I've never heard of him. How many, you know, and like the question that people ask is, how many records has he sold?
Right. When's he going to be on
Like, that
BET?
qualifies him having your video on BET or MTV, which I don't even know if MTV plays videos anymore.
I don't think they do. MTV jams, but that's I don't think they play videos. They play songs.
But people, like, that was like a pleasure to me as a kid to actually go to the record store and dig for hours. Okay, I got this. All right, I know that. I heard that. My dude's got it. It's all right. I want to find something new that nobody has.
Right.
I want to find something new that someone that just came out. And now people are like, I don't want to listen to them. They haven't sold any records. Where, as if they were to catch on and sell 1 million records 3 months later, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I finally checked out that cat you were telling me about. They're pretty dope. Well, why couldn't you check them out 3 months ago? Because no one else was?
Which, yeah, that's a big thing.
That was my thing, was like, you know, and I mean, that was the thing in the late 80s, the early 90s, when you were having a conversation with one of your friends about, the new Public Enemy record, and someone might go, man, that came out 3 weeks ago. That's old.
Right.
You know, it was like everybody was trying to be on to the new next thing. What's new? What's new? And people can say that in the sense that hurt the culture, because people were like, oh, that Public Enemy record or Cool G Rap, it's been out for 2 months. It's old. I'm not gonna buy it. It's old.
So I mean, my breakdown, and I mean, like, so we don't go into like 45 minutes on this one. So my breakdown is this: the culture's fading away because, for one, the record labels could care less anymore. It's whatever they think they can make money on. They don't care if you represent the culture or anything to do with it. And I think part of that's to do with the fact that hip-hop's the only music that really has a culture. Like, multiple
Right.
things.
There's multiple things. I mean, and as KRS-One always says, you do
Right, it's a lifestyle.
You do rap, you live hip-hop.
Right, it's a lifestyle. And then the blame that I would lay on the artists is they really are to the point now where most of them are like, b-boy, breakdancing, graffiti, okay, cool, whatever. Before my time, ain't making me no money.
Right.
Which in return, at the end of the day, the listeners, it's grown so big now that I'd say a good 50 to 70% of the listeners could care less either. They either want to hear the song for the beat,
right,
the catchy hook, or whatever. They don't give a shit where it came from. And the thing that I think is the most sad about that is that hip-hop has a lifestyle culture that it came from, right? Rock doesn't. I mean, rock does have, their thing, but they don't have a big culture type of...
In a sense, and I mean, it evolved from something different because, I mean, there was the hippie culture,
Right. I mean, so there were things.
Nature.
But what I'm getting at is, I can go find you a 16, 17-year-old kid right now that likes... And I don't listen to any new rock, really, but that says, you heard this new such-and-such rock group? No, I don't really listen to rock, but they're like, 6 months later, you catch that same kid? He's like, dude, man, I went and found this Ozzy Osbourne record. It was fucking amazing. And then it got me into Creedence Clearwater Revival and Aerosmith's first record.
And Black Sabbath, because someone told me Ozzy was in Black Sabbath and things of that nature. And you're exactly right. And it's like we had the discussion before. I don't really fuck with Mac Miller, so I don't know the name of his song.
Right.
But he did the mixtape track over the Lord Finesse beat.
Cheeseburgers and frozen pizza.
And I'll have people say, oh, I love Mac Miller. And they will talk about that song, and they'll spit some lyrics from it, and I've heard it, don't really like it.
Right.
I'm not a big Mac Miller fan. I mean, no offense to anyone that is, but I say, yeah, I don't really fuck with it. That's the Lord Finesse beat, To me, he didn't do anything to it. If I hear that beat, I want to hear Lord Finesse. And
right.
People say, well, who the fuck is Lord Finesse? That should make you want to go back and say, Lord Finesse. And I say, yeah, Lord Finesse, digging into crates. And, man, Lord Finesse was one of the people that discovered Big L. And people were like, Big L. And people were like, I don't give a shit about none of those people because they were before my time.
Right. And I mean, the biggest thing is I've seen it. I've seen the Lord Finesse beat is on YouTube. And you know what half of the comments are? This beat's amazing. I'm glad Mac Miller used it. Mac Miller made this better. That type of stuff, which we can almost just debate that as a whole nother topic because that I have problems with some older stuff because it's way, I still respect it, but it just sounds different. So I can understand when someone says, if someone was to say, I'm glad Mac Miller used this beat because it's a really great beat and I didn't ever hear Lord Finesse and I like Mac Miller and he used an amazing beat.
Right.
And I give Lord Finesse respect for, his time when he was doing this. But instead they say shit like, nobody'd even listen to this beat if Mac Miller didn't come rap on it. And make it sound so disrespectful to the original artist.
Well, I mean, that's something right there. Is I think with the fans, a lot of the younger fans are very disrespectful towards the culture in general, the pioneers. And I don't even want to go as far as the pioneers because, I mean, I can understand if a 16, 17-year-old kid says, I'm not really into the message or whatever. But I want to hear you at least say I respect what it did for hip hop.
Right.
I respect what Rappers Delight did for hip hop, and I mean, and by all means, we know that Grandmaster Caz wrote that record. Didn't get credits. He wrote I forget which one.
I know what you're talking about.
But he, the C to the A.
But what song is that? I know what you're
it's
talking
Rappers
about.
Delight.
Rappers Delight, yeah.
Grandmaster Caz wrote that. They get credited and all that, but when I tell you that you're telling me about an artist, and I'm like, yeah, they completely jacked Cool G Rap or Big Daddy Kane. These artists aren't so old that you can't go back and listen to some of their stuff and say, all right, I like what they're doing. I don't like it as much. The thing that you're telling me is, yeah, these guys are kind of over my head. I remember that was the thing when Wu-Tang came out. A lot of people who didn't like Wu-Tang initially, when I was like, man, this is one of the most amazing things I've ever heard when 36 Chambers came out. A lot of people were like, I can't understand what they're talking about.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, too. The fact that nowadays it seems like more people just want simple ass shit.
And I mean, we can
anyone
debate
understand.
what the internet has done. And like I said, another topic for another day, what the internet has done as a whole. But the internet is a tool, too. There are a lot of pros to it. I mean, automatically, if I tell you, hey, do you remember, I'm trying to think of a little bit more obscure artists maybe for some people, but I know you've heard of a lot of people that I've listened to.
Well,
But-
for instance, I mean, if you're saying obscure records like Nine,
Well, like the Nine record, and you go, no, I never heard that. All you have to do is go to the internet.
well,
It's not like you have to go and buy it, and I'm not even suggesting you go download it. All you got to do is go to YouTube and look up Nine. Hey, and you can probably hear half of his catalog on YouTube. Do I like him? Do I not like him? You know, and that's the responsibility that you think that fans will want to take upon themselves. I love, and that's the thing that gets me is a lot of people will tell me, I love hip hop. But when you start talking about anything that's outside of their age range or when they started listening to hip hop, because a lot of people, it's not that the records were before the time, it's just that they were late to the party.